Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to this information session on the Asialink Leaders Program. I'm Catherine Mudford, Director of Capability Development for Asialink Business, Australia's National Centre for Asia Capability. May I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of all of the lands from which we're joining virtually today. I acknowledge the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the lands from which I'm joining you, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'm delighted that you can join us to hear more about how and why Asia's growth is key to Australia's recovery and future, and to find out about a pathway to building the skills that will help you and your organisations uncover and navigate the opportunities that exist. Today we'll hear four perspectives. Tarandeep Singh Ahuja will start with the big picture. Why Asia, why now? Lotta Oberg will overview the Asialink Leaders Program. And then we'll hear two perspectives in conversation with Bernice Van Guardia, a leader on our current 2021 Leaders Program, and Craig Dower, a recent alumni of the program. Your questions are welcome throughout using the Q&A. It is now my pleasure to introduce Tarandeep Singh Ahuja. Tarandeep is a partner at McKinsey & Company, and he's also the chair of the Asialink Business Advisory Council. I invite him now to share his thinking on Asia's growth trajectory and what that might mean for Australian organisations. Tarandeep, over to you.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and good afternoon, everyone. So today I wanted to share a few thoughts on why Asia and why now. And I think the answer in my mind is very simple. It's not why Asia, it's what else. And it's not why now, but if not now, then when. Because if you think about it, Asia is where the future is and where the action is even today. No matter what metric you pick, Asia is about half of the whole world. Whether it's population, it's 60% of the overall global population. If you look at the middle class and the buying power, it's about half of the buying power globally. If you look at growth, most of the growth today is coming from Asia. You look at the Fortune 500 companies, about 40% of them are Asian companies. So no matter what metric you pick, Asia is there and growing. And you then take the Australian perspective, Asia is much more vital and important for us here than we often realize. Even today, our biggest trading partners are in Asia. More than half of our top 10 trading partners are based in Asia. Most of our exports go to Asia. Most of the investments we are looking at are increasingly going towards Asia, and it's becoming more and more important for us. The issue, however, is as a community, as a business leadership, we do not understand Asia well enough. If you look at our senior leaders, our boards, the Asian representation is way below where it needs to be. And I think therein lies both the challenge and the opportunity we have here about trying to understand Asia a lot better. And I'm really glad all of you are there listening to the webinar today, because it's over the coming years, it's going to become even more important. And the other complication is, Asia isn't one monolithic static entity. It is evolving really fast. There are vast differences, depending on where you look at. A lot of our trades historically has been with China, but now if you look at the Asian landscape, it's not just China, it's India, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam. Very complex, very different countries, very different economies, very different cultures. We all talk about big growth in Asia overall, driven by the large population and people moving into the middle class, but it's getting much more nuanced than that. The real granularity is not in people moving into the middle class. Asia already has the largest middle class, but the movement within the middle class. And over 80% of the growth increasingly is going to come from the top two layers of the middle class. What that means is the nature of demand in Asia is changing very, very rapidly. It will be a lot more services-oriented economy as opposed to goods-oriented economy, which has an implication on how Australia deals with Asia. It's no longer about putting stuff in a board and sending it up there. You need to understand consumers at a really granular level. We've been talking about for a decade in Asia, there are these big mega cities where there are people moving to mega cities. And now the game has evolved to within those mega cities, which are the specific segments you want to target. There's this whole notion about the segment of one. And that's true nowhere more than in Asia, where people are much more comfortable sharing their personal information to get more targeted products and services. And it requires a different way for us to think about in terms of the services we offer to Asia. If you look at innovation, the pace of innovation in Asia is now much faster. And while historically many countries would have been behind, now they're leapfrogging. You look at the people there, about 50% of Asian population are soon going to be digital natives. We're all interacting online. The pace of growth of the internet in Asia is way faster than the rest of the world. And if you think about all of it and put it together, it's actually quite mind-boggling. The opportunity you have is massive in terms of growth, in terms of the pace of disruption. The challenge you have is equally big in terms of the complexity and the nuances of very different markets to which you need to adapt to. But if you don't do it, there's a huge missed opportunity. So I think it's incumbent on all of us as leaders here in Australia to really improve our knowledge about Asia and improve our skills to be more relevant towards Asia. And in that spirit, I think the question would be, what do you do about it? And I think we all need to have a learning mindset towards this. There is plenty of information you've got online. There's plenty of research. We as McKinsey have done a lot of research over the last 5 years on the future of Asia, which is all in the public domain. You could go to Asia, travel, talk to the leaders there. Or the most effective thing could be join the Asialink Leaders Program, which I'm sure many of you will be joining over the next year or so. Welcome to that. And with that, I might hand over to Laura to talk more about the program.
Thank you so much, Tarandeep. And what a great pleasure it is to have you here with us, as partner at McKinsey & Company, and also, of course, as chair of the Asialink Business Advisory Council. So what a great thought starter. Why Asia? Why now? And of course, how? And that learning mindset, and of course, as Catherine Mudford said, it's also, this is one pathway, the Asialink Leaders Program, to answering those questions. So as Asia, as a region, is becoming increasingly diversified, increasingly complex, we too have to become increasingly sophisticated in our understanding of the region and in our engagement with it. And that is what the Asialink Leaders Program is all about. So as Leaders Program Director, I am thrilled to be sharing with you what I call just a snapshot of the program. There's a lot of information that you can get from our website, which is going to appear in the chat in a moment. And what we want to give you now, some key info, but also a feel and a flavor for what the program brings and the impact it can have. And so I will kick us off on that, and then we'll hear from a current leader and the Leaders alumni who have generously shared their time with us today. And so warm welcome everyone to this part of our Asialink Leaders Program information session. So in a nutshell, we've been developing Asia-capable leaders through this program for 26 years. And if you who are listening in would be keen to join us in the 27th year, then you would be together with 50 Asia-engaged peers from a variety of backgrounds and sectors. And therein lies part of the value of the program. And you go through together, make those connections, and come out the other end as part of a unique group, the Asialink Leaders alumni, of which there are 950 across the world, many in senior leadership positions. So I want to say up front, it's not just what we provide and what you learn in this program, it's who you're connecting with and whom you're learning from. And to that end, you might wonder, well, who's in the program? And there are some people on this call I know who have already applied. We clearly don't know. It's a great time to be looking at the program because we're recruiting. But to give you an indication, a quick look at some of our wonderful 2021 Asialink leaders, and you'll meet one in a moment too. And if you just scan that, and of course all you have are photos, names and titles, organizations, you probably notice right away the diversity of backgrounds that people are coming from in terms of professional and sector backgrounds. And you probably might know too that the caliber of leaders, and that's always the case. tremendous caliber. And that's not just any title, it's in the Asia engagement and leadership, wanting to lead for your organization and sector. You can go on our website that's already in the chat and find out more about all of the leaders in the program as well as past leaders. But for the purposes of today, we wanted to share with you what kind of an experience might you expect? Who else might you hear from? And what could the impact be of joining the Asialink Leaders Program? So nuts and bolts really, but the program journey that's on offer in 2022. It's a 7-month program journey that brings you together for 10.5 days face to face. There is national cohort gatherings in Melbourne and Sydney and Canberra, as you see in the middle. There are city cohort gatherings in Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney, and there are virtual gatherings together as a large cohort. And if you are joining us to learn more about the Virtual Hub, please know that this is a very similar journey, but it's also unique. So get in touch with us and we'll talk you through what's distinct about the Virtual Hub, which is built for leaders who are joining us from in the region or regional Australia. This red thread is your workplace project, and that is the central point for most leaders. You bring in an idea, which is for an Asia-focused practical project. We work with you. You can see also that we have pod coaching around this, bringing you together in small group. And out at the other end comes an output, which is, the project progress that you've achieved. We're going to share just a sliver of those projects. But when we are asking leaders, what were you expecting to learn? They often say, we were expecting to learn about Asia, and we did. But what they also report back is what they really got was a transformation of the way they were thinking. And that, of course, happens with stimulus of people that you're interacting with. And a very quick look at how that works. We have here a couple of core themes that we have running through the program. And then, of course, as you see, they're influenced by the big issues of our time, so they look different every year. And certainly, as the National Center for Asia Capability here at Asialink Business, we have the ability to convene great speakers. So we have foreign ministers and shadow foreign ministers joining us. But we also learn from, and let me show you a snapshot again of some of the 60 to 70 speakers and contributors you may hear from. We also learn from diplomats, from leaders in arts, from community leaders, from business leaders, from specialists in certain sectors. And so the network, the curated learning journey that helps you bring it home, and the access to real experts in this field, some of them in region, and certainly all of them extremely engaged and current on Asia. That leads to the output potentially of a new mindset, but certainly tangibly of workplace projects. So that's the last thing that I wanted to share with you. You bring in the idea, you work with us, we work with you and others in the group, and out comes an output, and it's unique to every person. We got 900 of these and counting, but it could be like Tim Watts, who is a member of parliament, who joined us in 2016. It could be, a big piece of work, a book that he just launched in 2021, which is another thing to note. They don't have to be ready by the time you finish the program, about Australia's multicultural identity and how we can use that and understand that to connect better with the region. Could be a small business finding new export markets, and it could be potentially you're from a government organization looking to really update and upgrade your important strategies, and many other things. And all of this, of course, adds up to, for you who are in business, better business, but for all of us, reciprocal and real partnering in the engagement with Asia to build that strong shared future that we all want. So with that, I guess you could call it a whirlwind tour of Asialink Leaders. I hope you all feel a little bit more informed about the program and know what we are aiming to do and achieve in that 7-month learning journey. That's from our perspective, providing you with a program. But now it's time to hear from someone who's actually in the program what the experience is. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Bernice Vanguardia. Nice to see you, Bernice. Warm welcome. And Bernice, you are Senior Global Engagement Manager in the High Growth Expert Services with Austrade. And you joined us this year. And I'm going to start just by asking you, why did you want to join the Asialink Leaders Program?
Thanks, Lotta, and thanks for the Asialink team for having me today. I joined Asialink really just for a challenge. I've lived and worked in Asia. I speak an Asian language and I've learned many other Asian languages, and I just wanted a challenge based on, my preconceived notions of Asia. I do believe that learning is really a journey and not a destination. I also wanted to gain more of a holistic view of Australia's relationship with the Asian region.
That's wonderful to hear. And in terms of your experience, you know, the things that you set out to do, you are not yet finished with your journey, but how are you finding that experience?
I found it really good. I particularly liked the hybrid component of the program. I know obviously it's been a really challenging past 2 years, but the mix of both face-to-face and online works for me as a busy professional. I think it provides equitable access for all of us, no matter what location you're in, to ask questions from influential leaders, both in government and in the private sector. I think what I took most from it was a lot of cultural discussions, negotiations, which really complement my tangible work. But there's also things like arts and more of the diplomatic dialogue, which is probably not, you know, directly in line with what I'm actually doing in my day-to-day job, but certainly complements my greater understanding of the Asian region.
It's great to hear. And, you know, the benefits that people talk about and the insights that they take away, they develop over time, don't they? I know you've talked a little bit about your experience and the impact that it's had immediately, but also noting that it might be more long-term and big picture. But could you share with us some of those takeaways or impacts that you're noticing now?
One of the things that I actually do in my day-to-day job is to help Australian companies go global. But I also understand that I work for a global agency with over 100 offices and staff that are based in Asia. And some of the takeaways was just how I actually approach business discussions, decisions, and the negotiating phase, coming from a place of humility, but also patience, which I understand with a number of markets, and trying to empathise with those in those Asian markets, how they might see the context. While I'm on the negotiating table here from Australia, it's just important to really think about the counterparts and also, I guess, navigate those cultural and contextual differences.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bernice. And what you're explaining and experiencing, I think, is that perspective taking that you can really do once you've understood how things might be different in a different context in Asia. So thank you for that. And that's us just warming up, isn't it, in a couple of minutes. So Bernice is going to stay with us, but in the background, and come back when we have some questions and answers. So thanks again for your time this morning. And I would now like to invite one of our wonderful Asialink Leaders alumni. Warm welcome to Craig Dower, who is CEO and Managing Director for Quantum IP. And currently, I see you there, Craig, in Melbourne. How are you going?
Fantastic. Thank you, Lotta. Lovely to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. Thanks for coming on to this information session. I know that people in the background are really interested in hearing also from your experience of the Asialink Leaders Program, also a year on from when you joined us. So please keep those questions coming and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Now, Craig, you had over 20 years experience of working across Asia, including 5 of them living and working in Singapore with the region. So from that perspective, what sparked you to join the program?
Well, I think Tarandeep covered it really well around the importance of Asia in a global context. And I've been really lucky, as you say, to have been working and living across Asia for over 20 years. And I think my life is deeply richer for having had that experience. I guess a few things that sort of came to mind for me were belief in lifelong learning. And I think Asialink do a fantastic job of developing engagement and capabilities. The program itself has an outstanding reputation. And its alumni is a sort of who's who of Australia and Asia engagement and leadership. The quality of the speakers is incredible. Many of Australia's best thinkers with really deep experience and very diverse viewpoints. And I think one of the things that really comes through in the program is that they're all incredibly candid with their commentary and insights. People don't hold back and don't sugarcoat things. And so you get very, very deep insights from people with really deep capability and experience. And then I think for our industry, which is intellectual property, all of the growth is taking place in Asia. As countries develop and become more sophisticated, R&D and associated intellectual property become critical to economic growth. And so we have an Asian footprint today, but the future of our business as a large Australian listed company is in Asia.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And it's great to hear, you know, the experience that you had in the room, be it the physical room or the virtual room, of that candid connection. Because, you know, you might see some of these people out there on events and, you know, on the big screens, but it's about having that conversation, isn't it? Yeah. And on that note, you know, if you look back, if you can recall the 2020 year, are there any particular aha moments or insights that stand out for you?
Yeah, a few things. I mean, one which was a bit of a surprise, and I guess was sort of timing related, that the first thing, I think it was in Foundation Week we had here in Melbourne, when many of us were still able to be face-to-face. But COVID was just starting, so this is March 2020. And I think it was Daniel Kim, who was in Seoul at the time. He was one of the Australian Trade Commissioners, and he joined by video link because he couldn't leave Seoul at the time. You might recall the cases were rapidly multiplying, and he was talking about how the very high testing rates in Seoul and the number of cases that were occurring. I think Italy and Korea were the two sort of big parts outside of China in the world at the time where COVID was really taking hold. And he shared an insight about the complete lack of testing that was taking place in America at the time, and what that might lead to. And you know, and then we saw what happened and how that unfolded. But it was very early stage of COVID, and we were all just sort of learning about what did that mean. So that was kind of interesting. And then I think listening to and learning from people with so many different backgrounds, as you say, was just fantastic. And then the final thing for me, a real aha moment for me in the program, was this sort of a synthesis of themes that had been rolling around in my head for a few years, which really crystallized during one of the sessions. And it was around the kind of the search for our Australian identity and how it connects to Asia. And I think Michael Wesley's talked about that in his recent paper about a new Australian narrative. But that was a really sort of profound moment for me during the program last year, and it's continued to be something that I explore on an ongoing basis.
Fantastic, Craig. And you know, one of the questions that we've had in preparing for this session from some of you who are on this call is, you know, what should a leader do in the times that we're in to continue building Australia's future with Asia? And I think, Craig, you're sort of answering that with your perspectives in a way, you know, and it's seeking that deeper insight, which I think makes a huge difference. And I know that you too, in your role, I mean, you've been a leader for us and you're our alumni. You also invest in Asia capabilities for your organization, including the Leaders Program. So why, in your view, is it important to do so?
Well, again, I think if you go back to Tarandeep's points just about the demographics, you know, more than half the world's population, 45% of the Fortune 1000 companies, all the sort of, you know, growth, the highest economic growth, GDP growth, population growth is taking place in this part of the world. Australia is a country of 25 million people, just fortunately sitting at the bottom of a region with all of that demographic and all the growth that's taking place. One of the things I learned in living in Singapore and traveling throughout Asia over 5 or 6 years a lot was nobody is sitting in Hong Kong or Singapore or Seoul or Ho Chi Minh City thinking about Australia and wondering what Australia thinks about things. We have to educate ourselves and get out there and engage within the region. And if we don't, we just become irrelevant. In many cases, we are irrelevant to what's happening in Asia. And so if we're looking for a prosperous future and both for ourselves and our children and our grandchildren, then, you know, we have to be in Asia. We've got to be part of it. We've got to be engaged there. We need to be trusted and, you know, a critical part of the region. Otherwise, you know, what do we do here in a country of 25 million people?
That is a fantastic note to end on, I think. You know, that's a fantastic perspective as well, understanding our place in the region. And we are going to move into a little bit of Q&A. So I might get Bernice to come back and join us on video, and we'll see what comes up. We've got a couple of questions already. And one of them is actually quite practical. So it's not so much about the program, but it's from someone who's on this call, really interested in joining the program and wondering, what should I take back to my organization to convince them to send me? And I know that, Bernice, you have been through that process. In Australia, there is a lot of attention given to this program, a lot of interest, and there's a big selection process that you went through. What do you think is a good answer to that in terms of what signals can you send? What ambitions would you recommend people looking at?
Look, from an organisational perspective, to get through the selection process, there is a benchmark of already having some experience and knowledge about Asia. So that's me speaking from my own personal view. But I also think it's important to think about your own, career path, what you want to get out of it, how you want to challenge yourself, some ideas that you might have potentially for a workplace project, some regions that you're particularly interested in, some challenges and opportunities that you foresee from the perspective of your agency or organisation, and what you could take as a tangible project that might tie into that. So organisations will look at it in terms of what they get out of it, and you complement that with what you will personally get out of it and how you'll challenge yourself and build your networks that might be, long-standing for the organisation even after you finish the program.
That is fantastic, Bernice. Thank you for that. And Craig, I might just look at you and see if you want to add anything. If someone comes and pitches you to join the program, anything to add there from Bernice's excellent comments?
I would just add that it's really, I think one of the great benefits of the way the program is structured is it takes you out of your workspace and out of your headspace. Yeah. And so you really need to be present in the moment, in those situations, whether they're virtual or physical, to be there, turn everything else off and engage, because it really is deep immersion therapy, and the deeper you go into it, the more you'll get out of it.
Fabulous. Thanks, Craig. So I hear the commitment, I hear the ambition, and I hear wanting to do something bigger than, of course, just for your own career, but bigger for the organization and sector. Fantastic. I actually had a question here that I think I can answer best in terms of the virtual hub for 2022. I can start answering it, and then I will go to my colleagues for continued conversations. So thank you, Craig, for that. And the question for me was around, what does the virtual hub look like? What's different? So basically, it enables you to join the program from anywhere in the world, and it's new from last year. We engage with leading thought, experts, leaders, just like we do in the program. There's also many components that are live streamed from the face-to-face program. So it's a mix of your unique experience and the live stream experience of your cohort. And you build your network, which is likely to be a bit more around the region. So this year we had leaders in Ho Chi Minh City, in Jakarta, in Seoul, as well as in Western Australia and Northern Queensland. So it really helps you to build that network and to continue to engage with others through the program. And of course, you gain exclusive access to all the learning resources, all of you who come. And with that, we are at time for this, what we hope was a useful taster of what the Asialink Leaders Program can bring. And I would like to thank Tarandeep Singh Ahuja for his fantastic start for us to think about why Asia, why now? We would also like to thank very much Bernice Van Guardia and Craig Dower for joining us and sharing your experience, and thank all of you who are attending today. And so we would like to invite you to continued conversation with us, and you can get in touch with my colleagues Claire Stevens and Emma Wallace. You see us there up on the screen. Thanks so much, Dean, for your excellent comment. And of course, you can always get in touch with me. And with that, we'll close the formal part of this presentation. And if you're tuning in after the fact, we are closing now, and we're thanking you for your interest and look forward to hearing from you.